Anyway, just a couple of things that TC would like to share with us.
I'm not. Oh, can you hear me? Yes. All right. Some people who know me as Todd. My Facebook is TC Pearson. The channel is MinnesotaBlack Robe Regiment on YouTube and Rumble. Please start migrating because YouTube is going to shut everybody down pretty soon. So, quickly, the reason it's called a MinnesotaBlack Robe Regiment channel is because prior to the Revolutionary War, churches, believe it or not, were actually fundamentally involved in the revolution. Pastors, teachers, and preachers were inspiring their men to stand up to the tyranny of King George. And it was so powerfully effective, if you will, that in one case, one of the pastors, as he was done preaching against tyranny and using the Bible to do it, in places like Romans chapter 13 and in the writings of Peter, when he finished, he dropped his robe, which was black. Yes, there was a day where all pastors, even Baptists, wore black robes. And he dropped his robe, and underneath it was the commissioned uniform of a Continental Army soldier. And he picked up his rifle and his sword, and he led his men out to go join the Continental Army. A very large amount of pastors were commissioned into the Continental Army, not as chaplains, but as commanders of infantry and cavalry. And it was so bad for the English that King George, sitting strangely in the lap of luxury in England, paid for by the taxes of the people in the colonies and other places, of course, said, "I've had it with this damned Presbyterian war." They weren't all Presbyterians, so you can join in if you want. So that's why I named the channel that. So now that I've wasted everybody's time, I'm going to read a couple of things. So when I interviewed Lisa, I ended her interview with a quote, and I'm going to botch this name. I'm so bad with this name. There was a man who wrote a book called Democracy in America. We're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. Thank you, Lisa, for reminding us of that numerous times. This man's name was Alexis de Tocqueville, excuse me. And I keep saying that, and people keep correcting me. I've tried it every way. I just can't. I told you I can't get it right. This quote's a little long, but bear with me, please, and listen to this, because this describes where we see ourselves right now in the United States, especially here in Minnesota, and even the people that I interacted with today that were counter-protesting. This is very powerful. What good does it do me, after all, if an ever-watchful authority keeps an eye out to ensure that my pleasure will be tranquil, and races ahead of me to ward off all danger, sparing me the need even to think about such things? If that authority, even as it removes the smallest thorns from my path, is also absolute master of my liberty and my life. If it monopolizes vitality and existence to such a degree that when it languishes, everything around it must also languish. When it sleeps, everything must also sleep. And when it dies, everything must also perish. There are some nations in Europe whose inhabitants think of themselves in a sense as colonists. Sound familiar? The greatest changes occur, as colonists, indifferent to the fate of the place they live in. The greatest changes occur in their country without their cooperation. They are not even aware of precisely what has taken place. They suspect it. They have heard of the event by chance. More than that, they are unconcerned with the fortunes of their village, the safety of their streets, the fate of their church and its vestry. They think that such things have nothing to do with them, that they belong to a powerful stranger called the government. They enjoy these goods as tenants without a sense of ownership and never give a thought to how they might be improved. They are divorced from their own interest, and even when their own security and that of their children is finally compromised, they do not seek to avert the danger themselves, but cross their arms and wait for the nation as a whole to come to their aid. Yet, as utterly as they sacrifice their own free will, they are no fonder of obedience than anyone else. They submit, it is true, to the whims of a clerk. Catch that? They submit to the whims of a clerk. But no sooner is force removed than they are glad to defy the law as a defeated enemy. Thus, one finds them ever wavering between servitude and license. When a nation has reached this point, it must either change its laws and mores or perish, for the well of public virtue has run dry in such a place. One no longer finds citizens, but only subjects.
Yeah.
That is a quote from the very long book, Democracy in America. And I put that at the end of my interview with Lisa because everything that she said is exactly why she's fighting. It's because of what he says in this passage from his book. I get emotional about this. I'm a vet. I took that oath, and that oath meant something to me those years ago. And every single person who, believe it or not, who serves in public office takes that same oath, and it should matter to them as well. But yet here we have the Lisas and the Lisas and the Larvitas and the poorhouse. Bruce from the poorhouse, and we have a young lady here who owns an event center that it's shut down. I interviewed another young lady who has an event center that's shut down. They don't qualify for any of that money. and those who do don't want it anymore. And that's that clerk who's stepping in. That when he says clerk, he's not talking about the gas station attendant or the grocery store clerk at the cash register. He's talking about elected servants, people in public office. And we've forgotten that. As Americans, we elect people. It's funny, we make them interview for these jobs for months, right? If you ever run for public office or watch people run for public office, or if you just get sick of all of the ads running up to the presidential election, that's just a giant interview. Hire me. I'll work for you. How many times have you heard that from somebody in public office? I'll work for you. We interview them for that job, and then they get in place, and now we're working for them. That's what he was talking about there. They're enslaving people like Lisa. You work for us. No. They work for us. They work for we the people. And so the last thing that I want to share, and this was written before a lot of us were born. There's a couple people here who might have known him. There was a philosopher in Greece named Plato. So this quote is directly from Plato, from the Republic. And if you want to start with philosophy and you've never studied it, you should. But Plato's Republic is the place to start. And this very, very short quote, Plato was very good at this. And here's what he had to say. And this is, if you remember nothing else about today, other than coming here in the hospitality of Lisa and the people of Albert Lee, this one thing, remember this every single time you hear public health emergency, all right, or peacetime emergency. Remember what Plato said. This and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs. when he first appears, he is a protector. Every single time they want to strip something from you, it will be done for your own good. We're just protecting you. This is for your safety. When you leave here today, if you're from Albert Lea, you need to be back here as often as possible. And you need to be encouraging all of the other businesses in Albert Lea to do what Lisa's doing. I've said this 1,000 times in different rallies, and those of you who know me from rallies know that I've said this a lot. They can't arrest us all. Lisa Monet, I mentioned this earlier at the start of the rally, suffered a major attack today in 2 ways. We need to watch out for Lisa Hansen and the Lisa Monets and the Larvitas, because it's not going to just be the government anymore. Alibi is in Lakeville. So she was vandalized, and there was graffiti, and then there was an assault when they were cleaning it up. So when you leave here, if you're not from Albert Lea, take this to your own town. Encourage your local businesses, please. This is the only way this is going to work. And Lisa, I said this to you earlier, and I mean this. This movement is because of people like you. It's because of Lisa Monet, and it's because of Larvita. It's because of people like Bruce at the poorhouse. The reason all of these people were here today wasn't because football game was going to be boring.
They're ahead.
It was because people need people like you. And I am proud to call you a patriot and a friend. And you have my word that if you need help, I will be here before you hang up the phone.